Welcome back to the Hill City, where it is finally time for women's basketball here on LHSN. And tonight, Lynchburg will welcome their crosstown rival in Randolph to Wayne Prophet Court. Randolph coming off a very impressive road victory against Shenandoah. For Lynchburg, coming off a disappointing loss against Christopher Newport, the preseason number 6 team in the country in that women's poll. Randolph also coming off one of their best seasons in school history last year, a campaign that took them to the ODAC finals. But between these two teams, it's been 21 straight wins for Lynchburg. For Randolph, I mean, this is a rivalry game, but how do they look to get that bugaboo off their back? And for Lynchburg, what do you look to do to keep it going?
Well, for starters, these teams are not the same teams that we've seen in the past. Randolph, they look really, really strong. And on the other side, Lynchburg, very, very young. But keys to the game, Randolph, they play a really good zone defense. And they've been doing a really good job of forcing turnovers and steals. So that's one of their keys. And then they also need to crash the boards. Lynchburg has not done a great job of defending rebounds. So if Randolph can keep doing that on their side, then they should be very successful today. But on the other side, against that zone, Lynchburg needs to take smart shots. They need to be able to find that high post as well, because that opens up not only the mid-range game from there, but also kicking and shooting from the three-point line.
Now, Lynchburg offense will certainly be tested today, see how they're able to move the ball against a really, really tough and unique defense in Randolph. But let's quickly take a look at the team comparison. It's not up there, but turnovers will certainly be a point of emphasis. Lynchburg turning the ball over a little bit more than I'm sure they would like to, and Randolph excellent at forcing those turnovers. But what else jumps off the screen to you, Andrew?
Well, initially the assist numbers jump off that page for me, because 9.5 assists on paper is not too bad, but when you look in comparison to the rest of the conference, it's not really as high as you'd want it to be. And Randolph, they share the ball quite well, and they have 12 assists per game. So Lynchburg, they're going to need to share the ball a little bit better today, and I think that'll come if they just get the ball in the high post against this zone defense.
Well, we're going to step aside for a moment, and when we return, we will take you on down to the court for starting lineups and tip-off. Once again, I'm Sam Graham alongside Andrew Watson, getting excited for this one here on LHSN.
Lynchburg really stood out for me just because of the way it treated its students. They really do make an effort here. And I've learned that over my 4 years, is that they actually do try to listen to what the student body wants, and they try to act on that. They don't really just give you a piece of paper here to then go off and do your own thing. They actually prepare you to work with different populations, which is what the world is all about. It's just working with people that are different than you. They genuinely care that everyone has the ability to go off into the world and make a difference with whatever they like. For me, that's just being basically in a room with someone, helping them achieve their first goal of, I don't know, doing a pull-up. I actually do believe they want you to do the best you can to change someone's life for the better. You can be anyone here, which I think is really cool. But regardless of who you are here, they will make sure you don't fall through the cracks, which is awesome. I have realized that I've never felt lost here. I will not regret ever coming here, that's for sure. So I'm very glad that I came here. Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome.
My name is Brittany Coleman. I graduated in 2014, and I have a major in chemistry and a minor in secondary education. And I'm currently teaching chemistry and 7th grade science at a local combined school. Being able to have access to your professors pretty much anytime they're in their office is really helpful, especially in difficult science subjects. I love that I am able to teach a difficult subject to students who typically aren't going to perceive it as enjoyable. I'm able to present it in an interesting way because I was presented this information in an interesting way. It's nice for me to be able to mirror what it was that influenced me to be able to teach.
Thomas Gibson Hobbs graduated from Virginia Christian College in 1904 as a member of its first graduating class. After earning a law degree from the University of Virginia, he settled in Lynchburg and began a highly successful career as an attorney. In January of 1915, he was invited to attend a meeting of the College Board of Trustees, during which the possibility of closing the college due to financial concerns was to be considered. Mr. Hobbs spoke eloquently of the need to fight for the college's existence, and the board decided to continue operating the institution. He was asked to serve on the board at that meeting and served as the chairman of the Board of Trustees from 1918 until his tragic death in 1942. Mr. Hobbs was a guiding light as the college changed its name to Lynchburg College and moved toward becoming an accredited liberal arts institution. His relationships with the economic power structure of the city played a critical role as the young college struggled financially through the depths of the Great Depression. His belief in Josephus Hopwood's vision of the college never wavered, as reflected in his message to the student body in the late 1930s. Lynchburg College, with continued wise leadership, is just on the threshold of development into an institution which will, in still larger measure, build sound leadership in church and school and state, a leadership which will look for its reward in the consciousness of service rendered and a task well done. Upon his death in 1942, the Board of Trustees unanimously adopted a resolution of appreciation which named Mr. Hobbs as, quote, the college's greatest leader, unquote.
A lot of people go to the universities to find something to be a part of while getting their education. And when you come here, Lynchburg is that something, it becomes a family. It's what the school's really good at doing.
And welcome back inside Turner Gymnasium, where we are now just a few moments away from tip-off down on the court as starting lineups get announced down below. We'll get them to you up here as well, starting with the visiting Wildcats. It's going to be Yanessa Cabrera, the graduate guard, standing at 5'2" out of Manassas, Virginia. Then it'll be Abby Baker, combo forward and center. She stands at 6 foot tall out of Salem, Virginia. Then it'll be Kylie Stark, reigning player of the week in the conference. Fantastic junior guard for Randolph. Then it'll be Tanaya Crenshaw Patterson, the combo guard and forward sophomore out of Newport News. And rounding out the starting five will be Cameron O'Neill. She'll be wearing number 14 tonight, once again playing that wing position, a senior out of Gloucester, Virginia. On the other side for the Hornets, it'll be Olivia Harris, the fantastic standout sophomore leading the Hornets in scoring. She will be joined in the backcourt by Macy Mullins and Kayla Terry. Then it'll be Bree Spainhour playing the wing. The freshman is out to a fantastic start this season for Lynchburg. And rounding out the five for your home Hornets will be Sarah Johnson, the senior forward, getting ready to kick off her final collegiate season here on Wayne Profit Court. And Andrew, it's obviously not been the start that necessarily these women were looking for, but again, 6 straight on the road to start this season out. That's really tough way to get things going, and it's got to be great to return home today. And not only that, but it's a code red game that really seemed to help the men out, particularly in that first half. Energy in here should be really good starting out.
Yeah, it should be, and for a lot of this team, since they're so young, it's their first time playing in Turner Gymnasium, and to have this environment, a code red game, it's going to be very interesting to see how they can adjust and to see if they can take that in stride and really own this environment, or if it's going to get to them in the early going.
Absolutely, as always, you know, a home crowd and the team playing down on the court kind of have to, you know, it's a give and take relationship. You want to give them something to cheer about, and you hope that your fans certainly will be there for you. But I got to tell you, you mentioned it in your keys to the game at the outset of this one, but I can't think of much that I'm more excited to watch tonight other than that Randolph defense and that unique zone. I know we're going to see it right from the jump, really, but just walk us through a little bit what that's going to look at before we get a chance to look at it in real time.
Yeah, so it's very interesting in terms of how they pressure the ball. When Lynchburg will move the ball around tonight, you'll see a lot of quick pressure from Randolph. They're not just going to sit back and play into their position. In that zone, they're going to step up and guard on the perimeter, which is why getting the ball into the high post is so important, considering that you can move the ball in all directions from there. Because, to be honest, Lynchburg and Randolph, both not too great shooting the ball from behind the arc. So that if they do that today, they'll play well, Lynchburg will. But judging based off how the season has gone for them so far, they're going to need to get the ball inside.
Well, certainly, and to do that, you got to make sure that you are moving the ball effectively and efficiently. Those will certainly be keys to the game over there on the Lynchburg sideline. Got a chance to look at part of that student section here a minute ago. Everybody wearing red, as is the case. The name suggests code red, and we are now out at the midcourt line. Jump immediately up in the air, controlled by Randolph, and immediately they will set up on offense. And it'll be Yanessa Cabrera running the point per usual. Swings right back out to Cabrera, and she has the first points in this one.
And right away, you see Yanessa Cabrera up there pressuring that ball handler coming across to the half-court line, just so that Randolph can set up that half-court defense and not get pushed out into transition.
Lynchburg trying to work the ball around. Ball is going to swing back to Olivia Harris. She's been so fantastic for this team, both offensively and defensively, as that pass goes errant, soars into that aforementioned student section. Bree Spainhour just didn't quite line that one up, trying to work down the baseline. I know that you mentioned, that baseline is going to be an opportunity where Lynchburg might be able to make their money. You get it to Spainhour down there, just unable to connect on the pass, looking for the woman in the corner. It's now Spainhour trips on the other side. That results in a wide open look. And Tanaya Crenshaw Patterson takes advantage. She's on the board now here on Wayne Prophet Court. Spainhour now playing outside. Harris will line one up. She can create from everywhere on the court and shows you right there with a three of her own. Lynchburg's on the board.
Yeah, one of the only players on this Lynchburg team that has experience on this court. So obviously she knows what it's like to play in front of a code red crowd, and she's going to probably show that tonight.
Certainly, and that speaks volumes. I mean, obviously Harris, we mentioned it, announcing the starting lineups, only a sophomore, but you're right. As we see an offensive foul that the Lynchburg bench very fired up about, understandably so, but continuing that point, yeah, Olivia Harris, just a sophomore, but take a look at this one again. Yeah, just a little bit caught up in that screen, and for Randolph, that's Kylie Stark, just kind of playing the position game, moves a little bit more than the official likes, and gets called for that moving screen. Ball swings back to Lynchburg, but Lynchburg certainly missing another big offensive focal point, and again, some leadership in junior Sammy Seaver. It's been a while since we've seen her on this court in action. Word on the street is it won't be long before we potentially see her again. That's hopefully the case for us up here and also for the rest of her team, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, not exactly sure on the timetable, but she will be a very needed piece once she comes back for this Hornet team.
Crenshaw Patterson drawing contact as she moves into the bucket. That's going to earn her a trip to the free throw line, the first attempts at the charity stripe that we have seen tonight. As the gym actually goes eerily quiet here. First one up and in. How that is a quick three for Crenshaw Patterson, somebody we mentioned in the pregame, capable of putting up some points for this Randolph team. But as you touched on, you want to make sure that you're still able to share the ball efficiently. There's an offensive rebound. And ball swings back out to Crenshaw Patterson, unable to hit. How about another offensive rebound? Try again. And Abby Baker and Randolph now own a 7-3 lead.
Yeah, if you're Lynchburg, we talked about how Randolph is going to want to crash those boards and take advantage of the height advantage that they have. And the Wildcats thus far showing that they can do that.
Immediately seeing this defense in action, closing out on those players on the wing. First it was Harris, then they close out on Spainhour. Another pass goes slightly awry. Spainhour able to track it down. Now she has to launch one as the shot clock ticks down. There's a Lynchburg offensive rebound. And foul will go against Randolph, so ball will stay to our right side.
And that is a very quick 2 fouls on Kylie Stark. And that's not something we put in the keys of the game, but if you can get this Randolph team and their stars into foul trouble early, you're going to have a much higher chance to win this game.
Certainly, ball quickly in transition for Randolph. Cabrera still running the point. There's an open lady. Unable to hit the mark. Another offensive rebound, instead called a jump ball, as Baker just not quite able to wrestle that one away in time. Possession arrow awarded to Randolph. Of course, no, it should go to Lynchburg. And it does. Possession arrow pointing to Randolph, but of course had to stop and think about that one as Randolph controlled the tip, but get everything sorted out now. Lynchburg back in their half-court offense.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what Lynchburg comes up with in terms of breaking down this zone defense.
And right there, see Macy Mullins. Been a fantastic freshman piece for this Lynchburg team, but legs start moving before the ball does, and that gets called a travel, so bit of a wasted possession there for Lynchburg, and they are able to set things up, but immediately it's Cabrera that kind of breaks that pressure they put on her, but still eventually able to force the turnover. The long arms of Olivia Harris getting up in that passing lane. Mentioned just a moment ago, she's just such a great piece for this Lynchburg team, both offensively and defensively, and shown it already on the offensive end with Lynchburg's first and only 3 points. Just showed it on the defensive end there, but now a turnover coming the other way. So that's going to be Baker looking to back things down in the post. Cabrera working that baseline open for a moment. Not spotted. How about a travel on the other end?
It's something that I've seen so far, the early going, is Lynchburg has done a really good job of keeping Randolph out of transition. That's something that Lynchburg has struggled with this year, and I'm not sure they've had a game where they've led in fast break points. So if they can at least keep Randolph off the board in that category, then they'll be able to keep this game closer.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Lynchburg themselves are able to get out in transition a little bit, as that's also something that they've struggled to do in the early going. Here comes a shot lined up, and it is money from Kayla Sledge, another one of these freshmen that have been so critical to what Lynchburg's able to do, especially offensively in the early going this season. Sledge showcases it on that last possession.
And you saw just how important it was to get that ball to the high post there as she capitalized on that mid-range jumper.
Meanwhile, Cabrera comes soaring in, the little floater down the lane, creating that shot for herself, showcasing the craftiness which she possesses. Sledge thought about a shot from the exact same spot, instead swings it back to Harris. Harris a little offline with that one. Rebound secured as Spainauer made an effort for it, but hauled in by Vandergrift. And there's some contact. The foul will go against Macy Mullins. Unable to put herself in position to draw the offensive foul. We're going to get some substitutions on the floor. Actually, no, that will take us to our first media timeout. And that gives us a chance to look at some of our statistical leaders. First for Randolph. Andrew, walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, Kylie Stark, obviously the star on this team in front of Tanaya Crenshaw-Patterson, who also plays really well, but Kylie Stark, 13.8 points per game, And then Williams, you see there, leading in 2 statistical categories, which is pretty good, especially at this level. 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, something that we don't see much, that many assists. So Randolph has a couple stars on their team.
Yeah, Jasmine Williams, a little undersized, just a 5'8" forward, but certainly putting up some good numbers, especially that rebounding number, as you saw there. And immediately, a little surprisingly, as now we'll get a chance to take a look at the Lynchburg, some of these statistical numbers jumping out. Of course, we talked about Olivia Harris, 10.7 points per game, averaged a little over 12 a season ago, so clearly the focal point on offense. But look at some of those other names. No one player really doing it all for the Hornets. It's been kind of a spread out attack, but rebounding leader clocking in at just 4.8 rebounds per game. I'm sure this Lynchburg staff would like to see that rise as this season goes on, but everybody seems to be doing well, battling for the rebound in the early going of this one.
Yeah, and you're right. So in terms of points, there's a lot of different players that get in that scoring column for the Hornets, and 7 of the top 8, I believe, for the Hornets are all first years. So you can just see that the growth that this team is going to have in the future, they might not be where they want to be right now, but maybe playing on your home court gives you a little bit of confidence going forward.
Certainly, you just peruse down the roster, and it's freshman, maybe a sophomore here and there like Olivia Harris, but very, very young squad on the court for Lynchburg as that shot's Off the mark there from O'Neal. Quickly in transition, flying through the lane, shot no good. That was Casey Kelly. Has been a starter at times for this Lynchburg team, coming off the bench here this evening. Does draw some contact on that drive. That'll earn Lynchburg its first free throw attempts of the evening.
Yeah, the first time that we've really seen Lynchburg get out in transition. I mean, obviously the bucket didn't go in, but I think if you're Kelly, you're taking 2 free throws just about as many times as you would take a 2-point bucket.
Well, I know in speaking to Allison Nichols, she mentioned that she really wants to see this team play a little faster. That's been something they've been working on in practice, really trying to hammer home to this young team, and that's got to be exciting. You know, yeah, you don't get the shot to fall, but hey, you draw a foul, and now we're going to see another opportunity for Lynchburg in transition. Not able to have numbers. Sledge able to eventually corral that ball. That's going to open up a good look at the basket. Here's another jump ball. This time, possession arrow is going to be awarded to Randolph.
Yeah, and a good fight for that rebound there, as Lynchburg is now going to set up into like a 3/4 court press, you could say here. A little bit of a zone, kind of something that Randolph has been trying to do on the half-court level.
Speaking on transition offense and, you know, stopping your opponent from being able to get too comfortable in the transition, yeah, as much as you can set up that press, obviously that gets easier to do coming off of made baskets. There's an and one down low. Give that one to Simone Brown, recently checked in. Standing at 6'2", one of the tallest players that we will see this evening. And she has her first points of tonight's young contest.
Yeah, and you can just see right there the just little size advantage that Randolph has in the paint. So if Lynchburg can get out of transition, that'll definitely help them to avoid that size disadvantage that the Hornets have.
Unable to convert on the old-fashioned three-point play. Lynchburg able to come up with the rebound. That's going to be a hand-check foul going against Natalie Clark. Understandably, she was a little disappointed with that. But officials didn't like what they saw. Immediately it'll be Cabrera checking back in after a short spell there on the bench. Been super active in the early going of this one.
Yeah, and another 2 quick fouls there for Natalie Clark for the Wildcats. So just another person that you get out of the game in foul trouble, which is always helpful.
So you see Lynchburg try to probe on the inside. Now it'll swing back out to the perimeter. Couple of three-point attempts have gone up early, and they've been pretty good looks. Obviously, Olivia Harris cashed on hers. That time, patience is a virtue, and it earns a basket down low for the cutting Maddie Nimmo, another one of those freshmen coming off the bench for this Lynchburg team and providing some valuable offense in the early going. Just about 3 minutes to go in this opening quarter. Slight edge to Randolph in the early going. Once again, Lynchburg getting in the passing lane and done a great job so far creating some of these turnovers. Now that one's one in the half court where you're not necessarily able to get out in transition, as that pass gets batted out of bounds. Looking to go right back to Nimmo on the perimeter. There's Terry looking to work it to her. She'll head to the bench in place of Macy Mullins. But Lynchburg able to create some turnovers, something that they've, struggled a little bit to do in the early going. So think about some of your keys to the game for this one, Andrew, and that's got to fall right into line.
Yeah, it's definitely positive to see a couple steals in the early going, and it's something we saw against Roanoke when they played with them in the first half, and that was a close game. So obviously you can see that is one of those main keys for the Hornets, not only in this game, but for the entire season.
Once again active. Cabrera is going to hit the ground hard, but no call. Looks like she just got a little tangled up there with Nimmo. Once again, Randolph a chance to set up that patented zone. Lynchburg goes into the middle of it, now swings to the outside. Once again, staying patient, just looking for where they might be able to break things down. It's usually the best way to attack a zone. They find a spot on the outside as 2 defenders closed in. Down low on Sarah Johnson. Again, the top rebounding weapon for this Lynchburg team, but three-point attempt is a little off the mark.
Yeah, and Sarah Johnson, a senior, obviously has a lot of experience here playing in this environment and for this team. So we'll see how she can develop and help the rest of this team develop throughout the year.
Well, great initial defense from Lynchburg. Eventually, though, that pass does make its way through to Simone Brown. Take a look at it again. All kinds of Lynchburg hands in that passing lane, once again staying active, but Simone Brown just too much to corral so far down low. Earns herself another trip to the line once again on an and one, extends that Randolph lead back up to 4. See if she can convert on the free throw this time around, and she does. So 5 early in this first half for Simone Brown. Again, came off the bench today.
Yeah, and for her to be playing like she is on the inside, it's definitely a key for Randolph. Is obviously they have that height advantage as we talked about, but if they can keep exploiting that, then they'll be in a good spot for this game also.
That 3 off the mark, and then the shot from Sarah Johnson blocked. Randolph eager to move in transition on the other side. Now they'll slow it down into the half court. Looking for the dribble handoff, but instead Cabrera draws a foul. Believe that one will go against Taylor Gant.
Yeah, and Simone Brown thus far has been playing really well on both ends of the ball. Obviously, you saw her score 5 points in the early going and then just with a firm block there on the other side. So Lynchburg's definitely going to need to figure out a way to shut her down or at least double her to the point where they can maybe force up a couple of long threes.
Now we see Randolph in the bonus for that last foul, earning Cabrera her first trip to the free throw line this evening. She goes 1 of 2. Here comes the other way, Lynchburg. Under a minute to go in this first period. They go down low again to Spainhour, trying to keep her pivot foot planted to the ground. Instead, it's going to be a foul called. Obviously against Spainhour down low. She tried to create space for herself. Yeah, you see there, she hooks Simone Brown. Randolph also wanted to travel, but it's going to be the foul going against Spainhour here. And you see there the impact of Simone Brown on the defensive end. Just making it difficult on Lynchburg to get something going down low. Another stoppage in play. Send the ball back to Lynchburg. You see Randolph pick up Lynchburg far down on their own side of the court. Give the rest of their defenders a chance to set things up on the other end. High pass brought in. Ball swings to Spainhour, out to the corner. Here comes another 3 from Lynchburg and gets stuck there between, right in that crevice of the basket. Always a little bit amusing when that happens.
Yeah, it's not something you see too often, but it is always funny when it does.
There we see Crenshaw Patterson with a running start, climb on up there and knock it down. Says no need to go grab a ladder or anything. I can handle this.
Sorry, Lynchburg lucky to get the ball back there. Obviously not doing too well on the defensive end, but with that possession error, they got the ball back.
And Spainhour a little too aggressive as she receives the inbounds pass. It's going to be another offensive foul early in this game.
Yeah, and she'll go to the bench with 2 fouls there too, and she's really been a key for the Hornets in the early going this season, so to have her on the bench for an extended period of time is never something that Lynchburg wants to see.
Bit of a chess game in the early going. That shot nearly on line as time expires here in the first quarter. It's a 15-9 decision pointing Randolph's way after 10. We will step aside, and when we return, take a quick look at the social. Make sure you follow Lynchburg on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you go for social media updates. We've got you covered. We'll take a quick break and return for the second quarter here on LHSN. And back here now for the second quarter, ball already in play, but we'll get you a quick chance to check out the upcoming schedule here for Lynchburg. It's going to be a really solid Shenandoah team, which Randolph just picked up a solid road win over, as immediately Crenshaw Patterson gets things going from a scoring perspective here in the second, opens up an 8-point lead for Randolph, but schedule not going to get any easier upcoming for Lynchburg. How about a three to answer things on the other end? That one will be Ashley Vandergrift getting her first points of the evening and keeping Lynchburg within relative striking distance, narrows that deficit down to 5.
But yeah, referring to that schedule that you guys just saw on the screen there, it's definitely a nice break for Lynchburg away from top 15 teams on the road. Like, they're going to get to stay here, play Shenandoah, play 2 home games in a row, and then go on the road to Hollins and then play another conference opponent in Bridgewater. So while they're not easy contests, it's definitely a nice break to not have to play a team that is of such good quality.
Well, Jennings earned a tough basket on the other end. Looks like for a second there, Nimmo had the angle, didn't like what she had. Now it's going to be a long three, which does look like it drew iron, but does not find the bottom of the net. Vandergrift gets caught with the hot potato there at the end of the shot clock. Right about at the Hornet logo, just about that top right wing. And good defense there from Randolph. We know what they're capable of on the defensive end. They've showcased it several times now, as that's the second near or actual shot clock violation, as once again, Crenshaw Patterson able to find something well within the 3-point arc. Randolph doing a great job early of creating opportunities as easy as they can find on the offensive end.
Yeah, and Crenshaw Patterson, we talked about her in the pregame, but she really is a star for this Randolph team. She can also play well on the defensive end, as you see there. She tips that shot away out of bounds. But her and Kylie Stark is just one of the best dynamic duos in the conference, I would say. And for the Hornets, they've only really had to see Crenshaw Patterson on the floor, and as soon as I say that, obviously, Kylie Stark's going to check back in.
Well, but to your point, it's so huge to be able to have such a reliable second option if you do have something like foul trouble that takes your go-to player in Kylie Stark out of action early on. And, I mean, talk about the way that Crenshaw Patterson has stepped up for her in the early going.
Yeah, and Randolph has done a really good job of finding other ways to score. Obviously, Simone Brown also stepping up for him. So they're really showing that they're just more than those 2 players, which is what we said they needed to do in the pregame.
Certainly. Crenshaw Patterson leading all scorers in the early going here with 7. Randolph players calling out this offensive possessions play. Ball does swing back to Stark with fresh legs. Foul called against Lynchburg. So it'll stay on this end of the court. Randolph will get a chance to inbound it under its own basket. It's going to be a kick ball there, as you see, going off the foot of Sledge. There's a great inbounds pass to find Stark. Just has enough time created enough separation between herself and her defender to give herself a great look. And Randolph, I know we talked about sharing the ball well in the pregame, but so far, really everybody on the floor has done a great job of moving well without the ball and creating opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, and on the other end, Lynchburg has done a good job. The shots just aren't going in for them thus far. But I'm sure once they figure out that this is a safe environment for them, considering that the entire home side over here is pretty much packed with fans, pretty sure they'll settle in and come back in this game.
Well, certainly Vandergrift didn't seem to take too kindly to the words on Lynchburg's offensive struggles early on. She's got a quick 5 coming off the bench for Lynchburg. We're going to get a chance to see a couple more substitutions as Mullins will come back in for Lynchburg. It'll be Cabrera checking back in for Randolph. She will take the place of Jessica Jennings. Stark, little fake to the outside, instead goes baseline. That ball gets batted away out of bounds, last touch by Lynchburg. And another play going to be inbounded under the Randolph basket. Let's see what they draw up here. Went to Stark a moment ago. They go to her again, but have to go all the way out to the three-point line. Great defense there from Mullins, whose defense has been excellent on the year, to push Stark out to the three-point line. Now, another foul going to be called on Lynchburg, going against Sledge, who, of course, that last kick ball went against. Attempting to force the trap there close to the corner, but instead getting called for her first foul of the evening. And for the third time, the inbounds pass goes into Stark, who is unable to score but does draw the foul. Nimmo still with her hands up, seemingly not happy with that call. So you get a chance at it again, and yeah, Nimmo does keep her arms up, just honestly looked like she moved out of the way of Stark. And that is much to the chagrin of the Lynchburg coaching staff, particularly Coach Nichols, now in her second season at the helm of this Lynchburg program.
Yeah, and even though Stark only has 3 points to this point, you can really tell how different this Randolph team is when she's on the court in terms of moving the ball and having some sort of explosive ability that when she's off the court, you haven't really seen from the Wildcats tonight.
Stark clearly the focal point. Interesting though, she's actually going to go back to the bench, have a quick chat with her head coach, Steve Lamfer. But yeah, I mean, Stark undoubtedly the focal point offensively here for Randolph, as we expected.
Yeah, and if I had to guess, they probably brought her back to the bench because they know that Lynchburg is going to go right at her, considering she already has 2 fouls. And to see your star player with 3 fouls early on would definitely be detrimental to your offensive hopes.
There's another 3 off the mark for Lynchburg. That one came in the corner from Macy Mullins. A couple of threes coming out of those 2 corner locations. Been a bit off the mark for Lynchburg so far. Randolph seems content to give them opportunities on that end, is right there. Stepping out of bounds will be Cameron O'Neill. So another forced turnover by Lynchburg, doing a great job. Just able to use the body, hands stay in the air, and able to work your opponent right up against that baseline.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of good defensive stands on both sides of the ball for both teams. So obviously both teams aren't scoring as much as you think they would, but on the defensive end, they've really played really well.
Randolph does possess an 11-point lead at the moment. Another 3, again from Mullins, opposite corner. That one's off again. Sledge hauls down the rebound, goes back up with the shot. No good. It was very, very tight in there down low. And the football-esque pass, Crenshaw Patterson was looking down low for Simone Brown, trying to get her another easy 2 points. Just a little over her head. Couldn't quite get up and reach it. Crenshaw Patterson kind of shaking her head at herself on that one. Says, my bad, let's get back on defense. Lynchburg able to go into the middle of that defense. They've had some success with that early. Obviously, it's not going to be open every time, but anytime it is open and you're Lynchburg, absolutely make sure you want to attack that zone and those baselines. That's going to be where you're able to make your money.
But even if you get it to that high post like they did there, you don't always have to take a shot from there. And it's every time Lynchburg has gotten there, they've put the ball up from there. But if you look towards the wings or even the corners, obviously the shots aren't falling from the corners thus far, but the shots are there. And if they start falling, Lynchburg will be right back in this game.
Crenshaw Patterson running air traffic control there, is on the mark with that pass to Brown. Brown does go up with it once again, but that one just a little bit off the mark. Lynchburg again swings into that high post spot you're just talking about. Decides to pass out of it this time. It's going to result in a three from the top of the key, but that one off the mark as well. So the three's really not falling here at the moment for Lynchburg. That'll get us a timeout here. 4:15 remaining in this first half. Give everyone a chance to catch their breath. So we've been moving quickly down on the floor. So what jumps out from here in the early going? So we'll take a look here in a moment at these head coaches.
Yeah,
First,
head coach Allison Nichols in her second season as the head coach for the Hornets. She did coach for Randolph from 2010 to 2016, so she has some experience in this matchup, obviously on the wrong end of it for the majority, but she's done a really good job with this Hornets program. Obviously a great recruiting class this year, so looking to improve as they go on, and she's very excited about what this team could do late in the season.
Yeah, very early in her tenure here. Looking on the other side, Steve Lamper at the helm of this Randolph program. And boy, coming off one of their best seasons, if not their best season, at least since they've joined the ODAC a year ago. Just a remarkable job that he's done, a guy with D1 experience.
Yeah, Steve Lamfer, their coach, spent a lot of time coaching in Division I, a couple of assistant coaching jobs up at UMass in Vermont, I believe, and then got that head coaching job at NJIT from 2012 to 2018 before taking a break and then being offered the job here at Randolph College. So obviously he's very experienced, and he has built this team to be one of the best in the ODAC, obviously picked to be second in the preseason poll for the conference.
Coming out of that media timeout, see some fresh legs down on the court as Randolph able to find Cabrera in a good spot. She decides to pass out of it. We'll get a reset to Jennings up top around the logo. There's a great look for Cabrera at the three-point line. Takes a step closer to the basket. Shot off the mark, but the rebound falls right into the lap of guess who? Crenshaw Patterson. Once more, that's going to bring her total to 9 on the evening. Still just under 4 minutes to go in this first half. So it has not been Kylie Stark here in the early going, but her partner, Crenshaw Patterson, who has gotten things going offensively for a Randolph team that now finds itself ahead 13.
Yeah, and Crenshaw Patterson is just very difficult to guard, considering that not only can she shoot the ball from the perimeter, she can also get inside and hurt you there. So there's not much you can do if you're Lynchburg, especially if a rebound just falls right into her lap under the basket. But they're going to have to figure out a way to maybe not stop her completely, but just slow her down and make her look for passing lanes instead of shooting the ball.
Once again, Randolph forcing Lynchburg to use a majority of the shot clock there. Results in a Mullins three-point attempt that doesn't go. Try to force the double team on Cabrera, but she splits it, gets to the basket, and draws a foul. She will head back to the line for the second time this half.
Yeah, and what we thought was going to be a really good defensive stand there for Lynchburg, considering they got the Wildcats down into a late shot clock situation. But Cabrera does a really good job of splitting in between two defenders there that are trying to double her at the top of the key and just obviously putting up a shot and getting to the free throw line.
Cabrera has been certainly showcasing her ball handling abilities as well as her craftiness. Really been able to get herself open both with and without the ball. Just doing a great job, great command of the court. And able to find whatever spot she chooses. And then from there, do you take the shot? Do you pass? Well, that's up to her. This time earns her a trip to the free throw line where she's good on the first. Splits these two. Scoring total sits at 6 for Cabrera, second leading scorer on the floor. The ball will head back to Randolph's possession.
Yeah, just a turnover there that if you're the Hornets, you don't really want, considering you're down 12 as we get closer to the halftime whistle. And for them, you're trying to obviously keep this game close, but it's those turnovers in critical situations that you really want to avoid.
Great defense there from Kelly, tasked with guarding Crenshaw Patterson. Potentially an ill-advised shot there for Crenshaw Patterson, but obviously she's had a great night scoring thus far. Tries to just get that shot up over the outstretched arms of Kelly and not able to find luck with it.
Yeah, and I think if you're Coach Lanford, you're not too upset with Crenshaw Patterson taking that shot, considering the hot hand she's had.
She's certainly been fantastic. Kelly ends up taking the shot on the other end, unable to draw anything from it. See another substitution as Vandergrift will check back in. Brundage, the sophomore guard, will hit the bench. Vandergrift giving Lynchburg a scoring lift. Last time she came into the game, put up a quick 5 in the form of a triple. And then one inside the arc. There's a great look down low for Nadia West. Leads to a Lynchburg timeout. She just got lost by this Lynchburg defense down along the baseline. And we'll take the opportunity to take this timeout with them down on the court. We'll step aside for just a moment and be back here for the rest of this first half.
The biggest thing that I've taken from Westover is probably my interactions with faculty. I started working with Dr. Fryer. He's always available for help, and he makes sure that I get to do the experiments and not just be there while he does them. I didn't want to limit myself when I came here to just taking the prereqs for med school. I wanted to get a full, well-rounded education, and I definitely found that in the Westover program. It's given me the opportunity to keep playing soccer at a competitive level, but also it's given me the ability to be a student and to pursue other activities such as EMS. %, do Westover because it's not something they're going to regret, and it's going to be a lot of work, but so is everything else. It's just going to help build their education that they've already had and make them a better person for it.
Welcome back inside Turner Gymnasium. Going to get set for the final, well, right about 100 seconds. Make it 99 seconds left on the clock in this first half. Randolph currently owners of a 14-point lead over their crosstown rival. We talked at the outset of this broadcast. Randolph trying desperately to end that streak, have not won in this building since 1998. And they are certainly on pace to do so tonight.
Yeah, but if you're Lynchburg, you have to understand that you can't obviously get all these points back at once, as drawing a foul there is a really good start for them. But you can tell that the momentum in this building right now is going to the other team from Lynchburg instead of the home team. So if you're Lynchburg, you're just trying to get a couple points back here before the half, maybe cut the lead to under 10 points and then go from there. But 14 points, especially in 10-minute quarters, it feels like a lot, but if you're the Hornets, you know that you can score that with just a couple of possessions.
Well, you hear a lot about trying to break things up according to those media timeouts, which on the women's side of things is obviously that under 5 timeout. So essentially think of it as, 5-minute increments in the men's game. You hear it a lot as 4-minute increments. Just try to win as many increments as you can. And yeah, that 10-point number is huge. You get it back to single digits, things just start to feel like they flow a little easier.
Yeah, and it does a lot for their confidence as well if they can get it back to show that they really can score. Obviously, they've struggled a little bit on the offensive end, but nothing to the point that is incredibly bad. So I think they should be pretty confident in what they're doing thus far, as now they're just drawing a couple fouls here from Randolph, which is a really good sign for them.
2 quick ones against Nadia West, who's now holding things down, down low. West there just kind of used her body to try and restrict space. Can't do that, obviously. Shot goes up from Sledge. She ends up with another opportunity, misses on both. So quality defensive possession that was drawn out quite a bit, courtesy of those 2 West fouls, but Eventually West nabs that rebound and Randolph's able to go the other way. So Lynchburg once again getting in the passing lane. Ball finds its way to Cabrera on the misfire. Crenshaw Patterson thought about it, thinks better. Three will go up from Jennings instead. Catches the back of the iron, but saved by Crenshaw Patterson. Good athletic play and a total reset as we hit 35 seconds to go in this first half. Shot clock showing 10. Jennings goes down low, had an open Crenshaw Patterson. Ball's deflected. Lynchburg able to finally end that possession. Sledge hits the deck.
And those are, three very quick fouls there for West. And I think that's important because she's really stepped into a role where she can take that place of Simone Brown in there. So with her on the bench and 3 fouls, maybe it forces them to bring back out Brown or someone who is not as effective on both ends, which is obviously an advantage to the Hornets.
Yeah, Brown's certainly been effective tonight on the offensive end, but yeah, a little bit of foul trouble piling up for Randolph as Lynchburg now not able to get a shot up as time expires on the first half of action here tonight. That's got to be a little frustrating. Certainly looking to move the ball around, but on the other side, it's got to make you feel good if you're Randolph. I mean, you're able to take all of that momentum that we just talked about into the locker room as Lynchburg unable to even take a stab at it right there at the end of the half. Take a look at some of those plays from the first half. Look back at the first 20 minutes as we will step aside here before we get a chance to take a look ahead at the 20 to come. We'll check in on the men's basketball game. The Hornets in action tonight on the road at Ferrum as well. So step aside here for just a moment and we'll return with all the halftime content here on LHSN.
My name is Marlene Castaños. I graduated in 2009. I was a communication major. I am a digital producer now for the Martin Agency. So we have a lot of amazing clients from Geico to Land O'Lakes to Oreo. So we get to create amazing content, all those funny Geico commercials that you see. And as a digital producer, I get to create amazing content for digital. I was very highly involved here. I was president of my class while I was here. I was president of the Hispanic Society. I joined a sorority when I was here. I had like 2 jobs. So having a sense of managing my time, it kind of pushed me to be better at my job right now. Just knowing that you had someone on your corner was really important, and they really took the time to really invest in their students. I felt like I had a cheerleading squad behind me at every single point. They were the ones that encouraged me to look for those opportunities, to push myself to be better. So it's definitely truly an amazing place. I brag about this place all the time. So if anyone gets lucky enough to be part of this community, it's life-changing.
Everyone has a story. A triumph, a time they fell short, a gift, a light all their own. Every story has a beginning. For us, our stories began long before we got here, at the moment we discovered we had something to share with the world. But no matter where we've been, our journeys weave together at the University of Lynchburg. Since 1903, we've grown from a handful of students to a diverse, dynamic community of students, professors, staff, and alumni around the world. In a community that supports who we are and who we want to be, we're on a journey to find where our passions lead so we can lead others to find theirs. Together, we have more experience, we have more knowledge than we do alone. Eventually, our stories will lead us to a path all our own, and we will share our passions with the world. No matter the journey we choose, the University of Lynchburg is, and always will be, our home.
Here's to life and here's to Lynchburg, to the years we spent together. I don't know when or how we gathered, but I know I'm home. So here's to love and here's to the heartache, all the laughter, every mistake. I don't know how our lives will be changed, but here I am home. Here I'm home.
At Lynchburg, we don't fear change. We embrace it in our students, on our campus, in our community, and around the world. We're building on our legacy of always moving forward. It's the same place with a new name. Welcome to the University of Lynchburg.
My name is Taylor Clark, and I graduated in the spring of 2019, and I was a math major, and I'm currently a processing and packaging supply chain leader at Frito-Lay here in Lynchburg. As a math major, I loved every single second being in the classroom. I would fight for those professors, my classmates. I learned and grew as a person being in that class and challenging myself more than I would have ever thought I could. A big part of my job is root cause analysis and being able to look at a problem and figure out why did this happen and how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again. So as a math major, you learn that you need to have fundamental truths before you make any other statement, make any other assumption. The reason why I chose Lynchburg, and it's the general consensus on campus, is the relationship you get to build with your professors. And that sense of community that you get where you and your peers all understand and know that the people who are trying to push me to be better also will support me through it all.
Welcome back inside Turner Gymnasium, about halfway through this halftime period. And as you take a look back at kind of what that first half looked like, we talked a lot in the pregame about some big offensive pieces for each team, and Stark for Randolph and obviously Olivia Harris for Lynchburg, but didn't see a ton of either of them in that first half, and obviously that's shown a lot more for Lynchburg. We saw Crenshaw Patterson step up big for Randolph. She poured in 9 first half points, but Lynchburg just sitting at 16 points here at the half. Certainly not what they were hoping for, but let's talk a little bit about our keys to the game from the beginning here and how that's panned out so far.
Yeah, so thus far, Randolph has looked like a great team on the defensive end. And Lynchburg has not found a way to really figure out that zone. However, when they have thrown the ball into the high post, they've been relatively successful, but Randolph has figured out that that's what they're going to try and do and has been defending that pass in there really, really well. But then on the other side, Lynchburg has gotten pretty late into some shot clocks and forced up some shots that are not necessarily good shots. So that kind of goes against their idea of taking smart shots. And then not a key to the game at the start, but Lynchburg has done a good job of shutting down Kylie Stark, obviously not because she's been playing and they've been shutting her down just because they got her in foul trouble early, but they do need to find a way to shut down Crenshaw Patterson now in the same way that they plan to shut down Stark.
I'm sure that'll be a halftime adjustment, and of course, getting your opponent into foul trouble, it's an indirect way of playing defense, but certainly a great way to slow down your opponent. And while we have the time here at halftime, take a quick look at that men's upcoming schedule down at the bottom left hand of your screen. Currently, Lynchburg men's basketball team on the road at Fair. I mentioned that earlier. Currently holding a 28-21 lead over the Panthers there on the road. So a good start here to the first half. That one got going at 7:30. Got about 6 or so minutes left in the first half. As you look there at the upcoming schedule, what really stands out other than a big home test coming up against Virginia Wesleyan on Saturday?
Well, for them, they've got 2 really tough games coming up. Virginia Wesleyan, obviously a really good team in the ODAC, and then Hampton-Sydney received votes in the preseason to be ranked in the country. So they're going to have to figure out a way to score, and you said they looked really good against EMU, and thus far they're looking really good against Ferrum, so hopefully they can carry that forward into the next couple of games.
Certainly, and that Hampton-Sydney team, one that's played Lynchburg's opening opponent in Mary Washington, who we got the chance to see them play on this court. Obviously, Lynchburg fell in that one. Mary Washington dismantling Hampton-Sydney as well. So not the start that the Tigers were looking for. That should certainly be a good one here next week. We're going to step aside one more time, but we will return for the beginning of the second half right here on LHSN.
Carrie Brewer became the 7th president of Lynchburg College in 1964, only 15 years after his graduation in 1949. During those intervening years, he had earned a PhD in public policy from Harvard, served as an aide to 2 major congressional committees, and was the director of emergency preparedness in the Kennedy administration. Returning to his alma mater, he hit the ground running. Dr. Brewer initiated a change in the college charter to allow students of all races to enroll. He cut the standard faculty teaching load by 20%. He improved faculty and staff salaries and increased the size of the faculty and the student body. He sought to raise the visibility of the college in Lynchburg as well as the larger community by offering graduate programs in education, business, and physics to meet identified needs in Central Virginia. An enthusiastic fan of LC sports, Dr. Brewer added administrative support to the college's athletic programs, resulting in the emergence of Lynchburg College as a national athletic power. During his presidency, Snido Chapel, the courts, McWayne, Tate, and Montgomery residence halls, the Burton Student Center, Turner Gymnasium, Wakefield House, Foxfield, the Dillard Fine Arts Building, the Capron Library, and the residences on Faculty Drive were added to the college physical plan. Also, Memorial Gymnasium was transformed into Hall Campus Center. Carnegie Hall was converted into faculty offices, and the surviving World War II Quonset hut was remodeled into the psychology building. However, perhaps the greatest legacy left Lynchburg College by Carrie Brewer is the attitude embedded in his repeated statement that a great college is always in the process of becoming. In the decades since he retired, Lynchburg College has become a university and has continued to grow and change, moving ever closer towards becoming the institution envisioned by a 36-year-old neophyte college president over half a century ago.
I was looking for a school that could provide me with the athletics, academics to pursue my career, a wind symphony to pursue my passion for music, and really have a nice general atmosphere. The professors here are really unique, their background and their passion for teaching. It's really a place where you can explore. Lynchburg gives you the opportunity to fail, but also get back up in that period of time and learn from your mistakes. I can make these mistakes within the school environment, but also with the support of other friends, and be ready for the real world when you graduate.
Welcome back. Second half of action getting set to get underway. Clock just about 15 seconds remaining in the break. So we have our 30-16 decision from that first half of action. And what's the first way that Lynchburg can look to try and overcome, an early 14-point deficit? We talked about breaking the game into chunks. We talked about our keys to the game at the outset and ways that they can potentially break down that zone that's been really effective so far. But is there a potential hot hand that you look to? I mean, you get Olivia Harris back into the lineup now, which we didn't see her for, a lot of that second quarter. But, I mean, where do you go? I mean, you see right there on your screen Crenshaw Patterson. First and foremost, it's got to be a defensive adjustment, which I'm sure was number one on the whiteboard at the break to, find some way to slow her down. But what else can you do offensively?
Well, they also get Spainhour back in the game for the Hornets, and she has been a much-needed key for the Hornets on both ends of the ball. So, I mean, if they could kind of look to not only just get the ball to the high post anymore, but if they can move the ball like they just did on that possession, they're going to get some open shots. Obviously, that one didn't fall there, but at the same time, that's a shot that you would never be upset for somebody taking.
Harris and Stark both back on the floor for each of their teams. Harris getting a shot up early in this second period. Does not drop. She did hit on a three very early to get all scoring going for the Hornets. Crenshaw Patterson there, our highlight player from that first half, attempting a triple early on, and early on in the shot clock too. This Randolph team at times has been quite methodical. At other times, not afraid to work quickly, and they've done a great job of recognizing what a given possession calls for, and likewise done a great job of recognizing where good shots are for the most part.
Yeah, and I think they've realized that just playing one way against this Hornet team is not really going to work on the offensive end for them. And so when they switch it up, it might get a little bit confusing for themselves, but it has definitely worked to this point.
Well, there we see the ball swing down low to Spainhour. You mentioned somebody else we didn't get to see a ton in that first half. And immediately a shot going up from Harris, a shot going up from Spainhour. Lynchburg welcoming back in a couple big offensive pieces. However, defensively, this time it's Cabrera who gets lost. She's been working that baseline, kind of just setting up shop down there for much of the game. And she just seems to continuously be getting left behind. You have to imagine she's big on the scouting report. She generally runs the point for this Randolph team. But now her scoring total goes up to 8 on that last bucket. And she's done a great job going inside, getting herself to the free throw line. So it looked like some contact there, no call.
Yeah, and for Yanessa Cabrera, she's usually someone that you have to worry about in terms of assists. Obviously, a really key opponent for the Hornets in terms of assists, but she's just matched her season high in 8 points, and there's still more than, 18 minutes left in this game, so.
Get a chance to look again at that last play. Officials say ball was last touched by Stark and Randolph, so it will be awarded back to Lynchburg. Sarah Johnson getting in there on that last possession after offensively the ball swung down low to her a couple times already. Saw it with Spainhour, then of course just a moment ago with Johnson, who did not start the game for Lynchburg, but starting this second half for the Hornets and seeing the ball go her way early on.
Yeah, and this is a lineup that we've seen a lot of success with thus far this year. Obviously against Roanoke, they played pretty well with most of this starting 5 out there. So something that they have confidence in, a little bit more experience in terms of Harris and Johnson on the court for the Hornets. So maybe trying to get away from moving the ball quickly and just kind of playing calm.
Cabrera again seeming to get lost in the zone that Lynchburg's currently playing. Again, takes one step closer, lines up a nice shot. That one doesn't hit. As now Crenshaw Patterson hits the floor. So we'll get a foul against Randolph. Take a look at it again. Crenshaw Patterson just going for that steal, ends up picking up the foul instead. That is her first of the game. So no worries for Crenshaw Patterson, just more so upset, it looked like, with herself for not being able to force that turnover, trying to catch Lynchburg asleep.
Yeah, and it's one of the first times that we've seen them pressure the ball that high up the court. So if they can add that into their defensive pocket, then they're going to end up having a lot of success.
Lynchburg again looking for an opportunity down low, once again unable to cash in on it. Randolph does the same. Shot from Abby Baker. And then a big scramble for the rebound that Lynchburg comes away with. Ball swings to Harris. Once again, you see that Randolph defense on the wing collapse. And then it's Stark getting in the passing lane, trying to find Sledge once again in the high post. She's been a big focal point, trying to work her way into that high post in the middle of this rather complex zone from Randolph.
Yeah, but for her, I think a key is that if you're in the high post, you're not only just standing in that zone. Obviously, you need to be able to check to the ball and check to those passes and be able to receive them while moving towards them. You don't just want to be waiting there for someone else to come take it from you.
Sledge commanding a similar area on the defensive end as well. Right there, she's able to get her hand in the passing lane, force the turnover, and then you get a bit of a frustration foul going against Randolph. So just an overall good defensive possession there from Lynchburg, only allowing 2 points in the first 4 minutes of this second half. Is there, it was Nimmo trying to cut to the basket, find some contact down low, totally inadvertent. Now Lynchburg gets a chance to get out in transition, didn't really have numbers there. Break pulls up, this time the shot will go up from Nimmo, off the mark. And again, just 4 total points that we've seen through now over 4 minutes into the second half. We haven't seen a lot of stoppage in play either, a few fouls here and there, but for the most part, a really free-flowing second half. No substitutions either.
Yeah, and I would say that's a little bit bittersweet for the Hornets, considering that they've only given up, 4 points now, but they also have only scored 2 on their side of the ball. So came out with good defensive ideas, but not executing on the offensive end thus far.
Cabrera, the first player of the evening to hit double figures. She's up to 10 with that last basket, improving on a new season high. It was Crenshaw Patterson in the first half, but an early 4 in this third quarter being credited to Cabrera. It's Crenshaw Patterson. It was Spainhour almost daring her to take that shot on the wing. Crenshaw Patterson gives it up, instead searching for something better, a little closer to the basket, unable to find it. And that will take us to our third quarter media timeout. Give us a chance to check out. Excuse me. Take a couple looks now at what we've seen so far early on in this second half. Defense, defense, defense. See on a lot of these highlights, players getting up in the passing lanes on either side. An aggressive play there from Crenshaw Patterson trying to force that turnover in Lynchburg's own back corner, unable to come up with it, but aggressive defenses on both sides. You see what what each coach was really trying to hammer home there at the break.
Yeah, and as you see there, Coach Steve Lanford for the Randolph Wildcats has done a really good job of not necessarily making defensive adjustments coming into the second half, because they were a very good defensive team in the first half, but they've really locked down and shut down this Hornet offense in the early going. And we're hoping that Lynchburg can figure it out here with this media timeout, but Randolph just right now just playing with a lot more poise on the defensive end.
Well, you look at Randolph and all their offensive sets from that first half, everything just kind of flowed. It looked pretty effortless. Yeah, I mean, Crenshaw Patterson took on a lot of the load when it came to scoring, but she never really looked like she was forcing it. Maybe one shot that I can recall down in the lane where she put up a contested jumper, but other than that, everything really flowed. In the second half, it's been the same thing with Cabrera. It's Lynchburg just kind of failing to figure out where she is on the floor, whether it's the baseline or just losing her, somewhere around the three-point arc. She's certainly not settling for three-point shots, taking a couple steps inside the arc if she can. Now she's tasked as the inbounder, but for Randolph, offense has not been any worry. You just got to continue to make sure, as Crenshaw Patterson, now the second Wildcat into double figures at 11, you just got to make sure that you keep your foot down defensively, because if Lynchburg can't score, they can't get back into this game. But just as I say that, Sledge creates space for herself down on the baseline. Haven't seen Lynchburg work that baseline a lot, but Sledge able to take up residence down there on that last possession and come away with a couple points.
Yeah, one of the first offensive sets that we've seen from the Hornets today that has looked very smooth. Obviously, Nimmo driving and then finding an open Sledge on the baseline. And you said it yourself, they haven't really worked that too much, but they're hoping that they can find that baseline and break down that zone.
Now Sledge was going after that rebound, which had been hauled in by Crenshaw Patterson. Crenshaw Patterson a little upset with what just ensued. Saw Sledge give her a little hug after the play. So nothing malicious certainly about that play. Ball will stay on this end of the court with Randolph. Cabrera once again the trigger on the inbound. And the inbound will go to Stark, who got a great look at it, got a great look at it again. As there it'll be Kelly hitting the deck. One of the first substitutions checking in the second half for Lynchburg.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed is Randolph has done a really good job of inbounding the ball. Like, they have a couple of set plays. Obviously, Kylie Stark has been the key for that. Coming off of those baseline inbounds, she's gotten a lot of open mid-range jumpers, and they haven't really been falling for her, but if they were, this would be a much different game than what we see right now.
An interesting point that, if nothing else, just speaks to the impact that Kylie Stark draws on the defensive end. I mean, you look at Cabrera's been the inbounder on most every possession here this evening. And yeah, most of those inbounds have gone to Stark, but Cabrera standing at just 5'2". Lynchburg not really putting anybody up to get in her face and look to deflect that inbounds pass. It's just interesting that you don't move one of your forwards down low, but instead all the focus is just going to trying to deny Stark the ball, which so far is not come to fruition, as she's been able to corral it in some way or another on pretty much every single one of those inbound plays.
Yeah, exactly. And if you put one of those people guarding the inbounder, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get those mid-range jumpers. They're going to have to throw the ball outside of the three-point line, because that's where the defense isn't. So hopefully Lynchburg can figure that out and put a defender on that inbounder. But if Randolph is hitting shots like that, it's going to be very tough for the Hornets to come back here tonight.
Crenshaw Patterson with an assist from the backboard on that last shot. She has matched her number when it comes to points at 13. Here comes number 13 on the other end. That's Nimmo. Her shot draws nothing. The rebound does fall right into the lap of Spainhour, who will draw the foul on Crenshaw Patterson. That'll be the second on number 13 in black and yellow. But now the Randolph lead we see extends to 18 now. Looks like Crenshaw Patterson and Spainhour exchanging some words there. Crenshaw Patterson certainly plays with a lot of swagger and confidence, as we've seen in the not so much early going now as we're deep into this third quarter, but has a great command of the court.
Yeah, she's really stepped up as a leader today, not only obviously scoring, but physically and vocally to this Wildcat team. And she's really kind of led Randolph to the point where they are tonight.
Spainhour goes 1 for 2 at the line, cuts the deficit to 17 with just under 3 minutes to go in this third quarter, just under 13 remaining in the game. So still plenty of time for Lynchburg. You just got to start to find somebody consistent on the offensive end. I mean, you know, we've gotten the chance to see Harris be back on the floor. She hasn't picked up any additional fouls, hasn't been forced to hit the bench again, but, you know, it's just nobody's emerged yet for Lynchburg offensively. And you just kind of continue to wait and see when and if it's going to happen.
And I think part of that is when Randolph is on defense, we talked about it earlier, just how hard they close out on the perimeter. And Olivia Harris makes a lot of her baskets from behind the three-point line, and Randolph has done a really good job of guarding that thus far.
Foul goes down low against Kelly. That will be Kelly's second of the evening. And will thus send Paris Minor to the free throw line for her first attempts on the night. Randolph extending its lead to 19 now. Now the total control of this game. Where does Lynchburg go? Now a steal from Stark in transition, and she draws the foul from Nimmo to go along with the basket, drawing applause from the Randolph faithful in the building. We mentioned the crosstown rivalry, active hands on the steal, active feet on the fast break, and the Lynchburg fans making the short drive across town as that last play draws a timeout from the Lynchburg bench with 2:12 remaining in this third quarter.
Yeah, and you saw her go down trying to take that charge, and you thought maybe she might be out of the play. Immediately stands back up and intercepts that pass and goes down and forces that and one. But obviously you just see the effect that she has on this team. We talked about Crenshaw Patterson being a vocal leader, but when Kylie Stark right there, you saw it. She made that basket, everyone comes over to her, got the entire away side of this arena right now to be excited, and Randolph has just done a really good job of what we talked about earlier, just not only sharing the wealth in terms of points, but in, you know, being that vocal leader as well.
Well, certainly. I mean, we talked about this being a code red game for the Lynchburg women. The men did the same thing, making that home opener their code red game, but just never really an opportunity, it felt like, for these fans on the home side to really inject themselves into the game. I mean, Lynchburg's never led in this contest. There's still time, plenty of it. Over 12 minutes to go. But just so far, I mean, it hasn't been Harris. It hasn't really been Spainhour. Who's going to step up for Lynchburg? We've seen a couple people do it at different times. We've seen Cabrera do it. We've seen Stark do it. We've seen Crenshaw Patterson do it. And even really for a brief period, we saw Simone Brown do it down low for Randolph. Who's going to step up, come in and give a boost, whether that's off the bench or from one of your stars like Harris, and get Lynchburg going a little bit on the offensive end?
You know, I'm not sure it really comes down to one player. I think there's a couple people who could really step up, but I think it just comes down to taking good shots and moving the ball. Obviously, you still have 12 minutes left in this contest, and 22 points is a lot to overcome, but a lot goes with maybe just getting the momentum back and cutting into this lead, because it's a very long season, and with a young team like Lynchburg has, you would expect them to grow, especially because this is only their first home game.
Stark scoring total up to 7. On the other side, Olivia Harris has her first points since she got Lynchburg on the board back there early in the first quarter. That's another triple going up from the standout sophomore, and brings Lynchburg back within 20 points in this contest. Then a quick stop on the defensive end. So a great back-to-back possessions for Lynchburg. They go back to the high post. That one's corralled. Shot goes up, no good. ball will remain with Lynchburg.
In the last two possessions, they just looked a little bit more confident on the offensive end. Obviously, making shots will do that, and hopefully that'll open it up for them.
Quite a few threes went up for Lynchburg in that first half, especially from Macy Mullins, but good to see Harris see one go through the basket. Maybe that's what it'll take to energize this entire Lynchburg team. It certainly did on the defensive end. Nimmo finds the edge, driving to the basket, unable to convert on the layup, but draws a pair of free throws now.
Yeah, and when you're down a big number, the best thing you can do is score points when the clock is not running. And obviously that only comes from the free throw line. So a good key for the Hornets is to get to the free throw line. They lead the ODAC in free throw percentage. So maybe if they can exploit that in the last 11 minutes of this game.
Well, certainly. I mean, getting to the free throw line, like you said, you can score with the clock not running. And then transition points, you know, being able to create things in the fast break, coming off of some of those turnovers. We saw Lynchburg force the quick defensive stop. Yes, it wasn't a turnover, but you don't, you know, allow Randolph to take up too much of the time. Is obviously right now time your biggest enemy if you're Lynchburg, currently trailing by 18. So as many points as you can at the line, get to the line as much as possible, but also try to create some quick opportunities in the fast break.
Yeah, and I really like how they're setting up into a little more of a press as they force another turnover there in the form of a travel from Cabrera. But that three-quarter court press, not only does it obviously force them to move the ball around and take a little bit longer, but it takes time away from Randolph in the half court, which makes them feel like they need to rush a little bit, which is exactly what Lynchburg needs. Certainly. Less than a minute now to go in this third quarter of action. Shirley Lynchburg looking to try and find the 2-for-1 here. They go inside to Sledge, working the position game. She creates the space for an easy two. And then a ball flies out of bounds, unable to make it to its destination. Certainly a miscommunication on the WildCat side of things. And that 2-for-1 now coming to fruition for Lynchburg. They're going to get another opportunity and to take their time as well. You've still got 31 seconds here. Use as much of the shot clock as you want. You don't want to leave too much time for Randolph on the other side of things. So be interesting to see what Coach Nichols and Lynchburg draw up here with now about 20 seconds to go. It's going to go to Sledge again, still pretty early in that clock. 2 Wildcats to 1 Hornet there for the rebound. It'll be Stark that comes away with it. And now Randolph will get the chance to take their time. Shot clock off, 8 seconds to go in the quarter. They swing to the wing, shot goes up with 4, draws nothing. Last touch looks like Harris, will be Harris. And we'll get to the chance to see another one of these inbounds plays. Again, Cabrera the inbounder. And let's just see where Stark moves. It does once again go into Stark, no space. Wimmo was all over her. Great defense there. Nimmo. Stark is able to get the shot off as she had to, lengthen her advantage, but falls harmlessly off and will take us to the end of the third quarter. It's still been Tanaya Crenshaw Patterson leading the way for all scorers with 13. We'll see what she does in the final quarter when we come back on LHSN. Welcome back as we get set for the final quarter of action. Take a look at somebody that Lynchburg will certainly be looking to get going if they want to fuel a comeback in this fourth period. Still 10 minutes to go. The deficit is 16, but not out of reach. Lynchburg reclaiming a little bit of momentum before going to the break. This lead had extended over 20 points
Lynchburg able to change that in the last couple of possessions. Surely Olivia Harris will be involved, if not the focal point of trying to turn this thing around in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, to this point, she only has 6 points, but we saw when they played against Piedmont, she put up 24, so she has that ability to score at a high level, so she should definitely be a focal point for this offense.
Spainauer finds that edge that Lynchburg has found a few times tonight that gets her a one-way ticket to the basket, just unable to convert on the shot. Same type of opportunity that Kayla Sledge was able to create for herself a few possessions ago in that third quarter. So Lynchburg, in that latter half of the third, now in the fourth, doing a better job of creating those quality shots, but now obviously the $1 million, well, not question, but $1 million answer rather, you have to start converting on some of those good opportunities.
Yeah, and it'll get a lot easier if you can keep forcing turnovers on the defensive end, but 16 points in 9 minutes is a lot to overcome until you look at it and you say that's only a couple possessions, and if you can get a couple stops like they're doing right now, they'll be right back in this game.
Miscommunication on that last one between O'Neill and Crenshaw Patterson. Ball here will stay with Lynchburg. Will be Mullins, the inbounder. And similar to Lynchburg, Randolph not putting anyone up on her to pressure the inbound. There's a blocked shot. Spainauer is the one looking for it. Rebound comes inside to Sledge, who draws contact down low. Although it looked as though O'Neill drew a little bit of contact after that block, actually took the brunt of that. She went up to alter the shot of Spainauer. Seems to be okay. She'll remain on the floor. And Sledge will attempt a pair at the line to try and cut this deficit to 14.
Yeah, and as this game's gone on, it's gotten a little bit more physical. Not necessarily on the end of Lynchburg. Obviously, you're down, you're frustrated, but they haven't been the ones that have been initiating a lot of the contact. And I think Randolph just a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger to this point in comparison to Lynchburg, and it just kind of is showing itself in the paint.
Certainly, Sledge goes 1 of 2 at the line, brings her scoring total to 7. She's been, another one of those quality freshmen, currently actually leading all scorers for Lynchburg. As once again, the Hornets get in the passing lane. It's an over and back awarded to the Hornets. Now forcing turnovers seemingly on more possessions than they're even allowing shots to go up. Early in this fourth quarter, they're doing all the right things defensively. They're creating good opportunities offensively. The X factor just seems to be, can those shots start falling? And now we get a stoppage and play, a timeout, but we'll remain here. And Andrew, I just want to ask you, as you look at this as our color guy here, from the perspective of Steve Lamford, we talked a lot about what Lynchburg can do to try to obviously get back into this game. But now you're protecting a 15-point lead. You're trying to do something that you haven't done since 1998, coming away from a win on Wayne Prophet Court. What are you telling your team in the huddle right now as you feel the momentum shift a little bit to Lynchburg's side?
Well, I think a lot of the Lynchburg momentum is just coming from that little press that they're playing after Lynchburg either gets a basket or, has a turnover of their own. But for Randolph, I think you just have to be calm once you get the ball across half court. Yes, Kylie Stark there obviously threw the ball away, and not exactly what you want to see if you're a Wildcat fan, but once they get the ball across half court in 10 seconds, I think they just need to calm down and maybe hold it for a little bit and set up that offense. Obviously, time is your friend if you're them, so they should have no problem wasting away the shot clock and taking shots late in the shot clock, because if you do that, I'm not sure there's enough possessions left for the Hornets to come back.
Certainly, time, the friend of the Wildcats, the enemy of the Hornets. But right now, the ball resides with the team wearing white. And a great opportunity here to draw up a quality possession coming out of the timeout. Biggest key is just making sure you don't relinquish a little bit of that momentum that you've built up here over the last several possessions. And you are able to find a quality shot. It'll go to Spainauer again, turnaround jumper. She draws contact. And Spainauer, who's begun to take a little command of the lane for Lynchburg, will earn another trip to the line. We'll see if she can convert on a pair.
Yeah, and you saw there, they just isolated her right in the middle of the zone and let her go to work. Obviously, shot didn't fall, but like we said before, 2 free throws when the clock is stopped are always a good thing. They just need to get them to go in.
Yeah, Lynchburg struggling a bit at the line this evening. Spainauer just 3 points on the night. Of course, she didn't get to see the floor a ton, getting into a little bit of foul trouble in that first half. Does make good on the second. Brings her scoring total to 4, cuts the deficit to 14. Lynchburg doing a good job of getting to the line, but if they can't start to convert on a slightly higher percentage, it's going to be a very slow climb back into this one. The turnovers will help, but Harris unable to make that a turnover by corralling the ball. Still showing active hands, however. Now a stoppage as the officials confer over that previous play. Ball will be inbounded from the sideline right next to the Randolph bench. We'll also get the opportunity to see a substitution for Lynchburg. O'Neal will hit the bench. Paris Minor will come in for her to get a chance to check out Kylie Stark.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the Hornets there, the officials decided that the shot clock should reset, thinking that maybe the Hornets were in possession of the ball when Olivia Harris tried to steal it. Coach Allison Nichols not necessarily in agreement, but just allows Randolph more time to set up for that play.
And Cabrera too quick in getting to the basket. Lynchburg unable to keep up. Cabrera's got 12, having a career evening. And that gives the Randolph defense a chance to set things up in that zone on the other side. A triple from the corner will finally drop for the Hornets and Macy Mullins. The freshman out of Gate City, Virginia, has her first points of the evening. Another member of this star freshman class that's really been thrust into big roles for this Lynchburg team. That shot will not drop. A shot once again goes up for Cabrera. Pair of attempts bouncing all around everywhere but in for the Wildcats. And Lynchburg manages to escape that possession unscathed, now trailing by 13.
Yeah, and I would say that Randolph is a little bit lucky there that foul wasn't called on Tanaya Crenshaw-Patterson. Obviously, she's sitting there with 4 fouls, and if Lynchburg was able to attack her on the defensive end, maybe get her out of this game a little early, that would definitely be a key for the Hornets.
Harris at the top of the key, getting things in motion. Goes down low to Spainauer. What a pass! Spainauer converts down low. And don't look now, the lead has been cut to 11 for Randolph. Lynchburg attempting to take a little bit of control in this game. A double team on Crenshaw Patterson. She's able to pass out of it. Randolph smartly slowing things down. Cabrera able to shield the ball with her body and draw some contact against number 13 for the Hornets, Maddie Nimmo. That'll earn her a trip back to the bench. Vandergrift, who gave a quick lift to the Hornets in that first quarter, comes in her place. Inbound goes right back to Cabrera. She puts things in motion. Hands off on the dribble. Crenshaw Patterson didn't like it, didn't like that either. Ball will swing back to Cabrera. She finds inside. Was looking for Simone Brown, but she traveled before she was able to go up with the shot attempt, just unable to really, get everything in sync really between her feet and the ball on that last possession. Lynchburg forces yet another turnover and has an opportunity to cut this deficit to single digits. Vandergrift up with a 3, bounces all around and just off. Sledge going up for the rebound, challenging it. Then Mullins, it looked like, able to poke it away, but officials say she drew the arm of Stark instead. Contact called. Mullins picking up her 3rd foul of the game. Obviously only 6 minutes to go now, so not a huge issue for Mullins in terms of staying on the floor.
Yeah, and one of the officials there not happy with the reaction of the Lynchburg bench. Maybe a little bit of a warning to head coach Allison Nichols. But we'll see if that develops into anything as we go along.
So Lynchburg goes up looking for another three. Vandergrift, it would have been her second of the evening had it gone. Down low, Stark will hit the ground. Just ran into a wall of Lynchburg defenders. No foul called. Ball swings to Harris. Defense all over her. Back to Vandergrift, to Harris. Slightly contested three, will not drop. Wonder if that ball could have potentially swung one more time to Mullins on the wing. Looked like she had an open look at things. Has struggled a little bit from three-point range this evening, but did make her first one earlier in this quarter. Stark in rhythm on the other side looks for one. Ball goes dangerously close to the baseline. Corralled by Crenshaw Patterson. She swings it back to the wing, and Stark, whose three is off the mark. Mullins pulls up three in transition. Give it to her. The deficit is just 8. Timeout called. And he talked about this Lynchburg crowd being a little unable to get into this game early on. They got something to cheer about now. Take a look at it again. Mullins pulling up in transition. Good on the triple, her second of the quarter. She's got 6 on the evening.
In another bucket, we haven't seen Lynchburg get out in transition much, but you see right there just how important it is. Obviously, you would never want a player to pull up from 3 on a transition bucket, but if it goes in, it looks incredibly smart, especially in the hands of Macy Mullins.
How about Mullins shaking off a first half in which she really struggled, not even just the first half, really the first 3 quarters of this game where she had a little bit of trouble finding her shot. We know she's capable of it. We know it's there, and she has certainly found it in this fourth quarter with a pair of threes in the first half of this final stanza of action. And not only that, I mean, that last one just getting everybody in the building going, seeing her teammates swarm her out on the floor after that foul was called by, or excuse me, that timeout was called by Randolph. Hand check foul on the other end. Stops the momentum of Crenshaw Patterson. Stops the clock at 4:41 remaining.
And for Lynchburg, not a bad foul there considering that they still have a couple to give, and makes Randolph inbound the ball once more. Obviously, they've been pretty successful, but if you could force maybe a 5-second call here, it would just be one more turnover to add for the list for the Hornets.
Yeah, it's interesting. Minor, the inbounder here, once again, they do not pressure. Randolph comes out of the stack, and the ball swings up high to Jennings, now to Crenshaw Patterson. Been quiet in this fourth quarter. Lynchburg's done an excellent job defensively. Jennings, unable to find her footing, goes up with that shot, and it just doesn't really go anywhere. Crenshaw Patterson, however, able to draw a foul for Lynchburg. She's been stuck at 13 points for a while now. But as that is the 5th foul in Lynchburg, she will get a chance to earn a couple more at the line. It's also worth noting, looking at Crenshaw Patterson, who's fueled the offense for Randolph this evening, even with Stark back in the game for most of the second half. She does sit at 4 fouls. So that one bounces off the back and drops in. Lead extends back to 9, but although Crenshaw Patterson has not been a big piece offensively in this fourth quarter, which has helped Lynchburg to climb back into things, she's also been a vocal leader, as you touched on earlier, Andrew, for this team all evening long. And if Lynchburg's able to go at her and pick up that 5th personal, get her out of this game, that really changes the way you're able to look at the game. I mean, Randolph loses a little bit of size and a lot of offensive firepower if they're without number 13. Harris probing down the baseline, swings back out to the three-point arc. Only 5 seconds left. Harris in rhythm, a good look at a triple. Lined it up perfectly, just caught the back of the iron. That one will not drop as Olivia Harris has been stuck at 6 now for a bit. was looking to add to her scoring total and bring Lynchburg to the closest it's been since the first quarter.
Yeah, and they're not in this game because they're taking bad shots. I mean, they're taking really good and open shots. They're just not falling. And I think if you're Coach Nichols, you're kind of seeing that, and maybe you'll catch a game here and there, especially late in February where all those shots are falling and you're going to be a tough team to beat. So I think while this game is not turning out exactly how they'd hoped it to be, you still have to be hopeful considering the fact that Lynchburg is moving the ball well enough to be able to create those open shots.
Couple of substitutions checking in for Lynchburg. Mullins got a quick breather on the bench. She's back into the game, as is Sledge. Spainhour also checking back in. So those three pair with Olivia Harris as well as Casey Kelly. And for Randolph, it's Jennings, Cabrera, Stark, Brown, and Crenshaw Patterson. So roughly the starting lineups that we've had. The travel goes against Lynchburg, not a good time for it. And Randolph, which now has extended its lead back to 12, trying to reclaim the momentum that Lynchburg stole in the better part of this fourth quarter for themselves and hold on to end what has been a long-awaited win for this program.
And it seems like that momentum that Randolph had been searching for is already back in their hands, considering that Lynchburg cuts the lead to single digits. They look very, very successful, but I mean, they're still doing good things on the defensive end. It's just Lynchburg is not scoring at the clip that you'd expect them to.
Certainly, Crenshaw Patterson hit the deck there for a moment. She's going to get a pair of free throws as Randolph is in the bonus now. Her scoring total is 15. The Lynchburg student section looking to alter that free throw, unable to do so. Crenshaw Patterson goes 1 of 2. Lynchburg quickly in transition. Now just 3 minutes to play. As Cabrera hits the deck, no foul called. Trying to draw the foul against Olivia Harris on the offensive end. Mullins takes a step inside the three-point arc, draws the foul on a jumper, and I believe that was Crenshaw Patterson she drew it on. It was, and her evening will come to a close. She's poured in a big offensive effort for this Randolph team. She'll go to the bench with 16 points, but has been disqualified from the final 2:49 of this game. And a big loss for this Randolph team.
Yeah, and if you're the Hornets, you kind of hope that happened a little bit earlier. She was nursing 4 fouls for quite a while. But, I mean, 3 minutes left, 13 points is not out of the question, considering it's only a few possessions away, and considering the way that Lynchburg has turned Randolph over here in the second half. I wouldn't put it past them, but it's still going to be very tough.
Minor comes in the place of Crenshaw Patterson. Best thing Lynchburg can do here is convert on a pair of free throws, which they do. Credit each of those to Mullins, whose scoring total is now up to 8, all of those coming in this second half. Able to set up a pressure coming out of those free throws, giving Randolph a little bit of trouble trying to cross the timeline. They're able to do so. Jennings gets lost on the three-point line, decides to drive instead, passed up the open three-point look, is able to use up a little more time by driving, and now she is active on the defensive end. But Mullins able to put things in motion in the half court for Lynchburg. Got to work quickly if you're the Hornets.
And it's not easy to work quickly against this zone. Obviously, they don't give you those open shots, and Randolph forces the turnover and smartly slows it down on the other end.
Yeah, Jennings recognizing that she does not have numbers in transition there. A 1-on-2 break does not favor the one. It's a little bit of simple math there, and now just holding the ball right at the logo. Dribble handoff to Cabrera. She draws a foul on Olivia Harris as she collects that pass. Third on Harris. That, of course, will send Cabrera back to the line. Cabrera has been fantastic this evening, doing it from everywhere on the court. She has 14. It's made quite a bit of an impact of those 14 from the line. Gets a chance for a couple more here. And the Lynchburg defense has certainly done a fantastic job of slowing down the impact of Stark on this game, despite Randolph clearly working hard to get her the ball, create opportunities, as she is the star, reigning ODAC Player of the Week. You would expect nothing less, but just Cabrera and Crenshaw Patterson coming up so huge, pouring in a combined now 31 of Randolph's 51 points just between those two ladies is really what's been the difference in this game. I mean, the Lynchburg defense at times has done a great job, but Randolph surviving off the lead they built up in that first half, now just nursing it right around the 8 to 12 point range.
Yeah, and sorry, if you're Lynchburg, you can only be happy with the defensive performance that you put on the court today, considering that Randolph scores 62 points a game and they kept them to 51. Now, offensive struggles are a different thing, but obviously bittersweet with the defense considering they're still down 12, but obviously maybe some things to draw from going forward on the defensive end at least.
That free throw off the mark from Simone Brown. Surely we'll see Randolph slow down the game as much as possible over the final 88 seconds. She's good on the second. So a 1-2 split at the line. Lynchburg quickly in transition. Almost have to have a three now. They work the ball around that perimeter. Harris will take it. Cabrera in her face, but she banks it in. Three more for Olivia Harris. Brings her scoring total to 9. And those 9 coming off a hat trick of three-pointers. Cuts the lead back to 10, but just 60 seconds remaining in the game. This is going to be a tough hill to climb if you're Lynchburg.
Yeah, they've done a better job in the second half of scoring the ball, and those three-pointers are falling a little bit easier than they did in the first half, but still not exactly what you want to see as they force another turnover here.
The carry there going against Randolph, but just 46 seconds to go in this game. Certainly crazier things have happened, but Lynchburg's going to need a lot of help from Randolph if they want to get back into this game, as well as a big scoring burst of their own. Ball goes back to Harris. That's who you want the ball in the hands of, but this triple is off the mark. Another one will go up from Terry. She's got it from the corner. Lynchburg really struggled from that area in the first half, but they've made good on a few now in the second. She does draw a timeout. Will just be a 30-second break in the action, so we will stay right here as we get ready for the final 32 seconds of regulation. The lead is 7 for Randolph. They have not trailed at any point in this game. Lynchburg has cut the deficit with 10-10 several times, and big credit to that going to Olivia Harris on your screen there. Mullins has contributed 8 points here in the second half. So a relatively balanced attack as Lynchburg has fought tremendously to get themselves back into this game, but time a huge, huge factor at this point in the proceedings.
Yeah, and if you're the Hornets, you're obviously going to send a couple of players here to the line, trying to force a couple misses, maybe get a couple three-pointers or baskets on the other side. But I mean, we've seen a lot of Randolph players be very, very successful from that free throw line. So maybe when they inbound the ball, Lynchburg looks to maybe keep Stark off the ball, keep Cabrera off the ball, and maybe force it to someone that hasn't shot a lot of free throws today and is not comfortable in that position. Maybe they can get lucky and find a couple of misses and get themselves right back in this game.
Certainly, but keeping Stark away from the ball has not been an easy task, especially on those inbound plays for Lynchburg here today. Yeah, her scoring total hasn't been what she's used to, just 7 points on the evening, but it's not been for a lack of trying. I mean, sometimes the shots just don't fall for you. That's just how some nights go when you play 30 games in a season, but Randolph will set up in the stack. Last time they did this, ball swung into Jennings. This time it'll be Cabrera. That's definitely not who you want to send to the line, but Lynchburg doesn't really have much of a choice. The foul will go against Harris. Will be her fourth. Worth noting that Harris and Mullins, two of the better three-point specialists on this Lynchburg team, both sitting at 4 fouls. Want to try to keep them away from picking up the 5th, if at all possible.
But on the other end, if you're the Hornets, you don't really have the luxury to take them out and avoid those fouls, considering that Lynchburg doesn't have any timeouts left. So they're going to have to figure out a way to not only commit these fouls, put people on the free throw line, miss them, but to keep Harris and Mullins away from getting those fouls. Just an uphill climb from here.
Certainly, Cabrera adds 2 more to a career night 17. Lynchburg just gets caught with a little indecision there, wasting some precious time. Ball will go back to the free throw line. Shot will go up and in from Sledge. She's had a solid night, got 9. Cabrera easily breaks the pressure, and that's gonna be an and 1. Count, no, it will not be. Looks like it'll actually be a travel going against the Wildcats. So Lynchburg takes over possession. Just 12 seconds to go, though, still trailing by 7.
Yeah, they need to take a quick shot here, regardless of what it is.
And Sledge does just that. Stops the clock with 6 seconds to go and earns a couple of free throws. Struggled a little bit at the line so far this evening. But now down 7 points with 6 seconds to go. Time in the hourglass is all but run out here. Sledge will look to get into double figures. And does. Nothing but net on that first free throw attempt of this trip to the line. So a very solid night for Sledge. Does have a season high of 16 so far this season. That came against William Peace. Lynchburg's lone win on the year. Makes 2 there. Brings her scoring total to 11. And Lynchburg, the closest it's been since the first quarter now, down 5, but may just be too little too late.
Yeah, and I'm not sure there's many scenarios in which they come out with a win here. Maybe if you force a 5-second violation, but the only way you can do that is if you put someone that is guarding the inbounder, and they've done it the last couple of times. Obviously, Spainhour's done a good job, but Cabrera's just done an even better job of losing her defender and getting open, and when they put her at the line, it's almost been a sure fact.
Yeah, clearly the emphasis for Lynchburg defensively has been to make sure that they're not losing their matchups defensively, and for that reason, at times they have sacrificed guarding the inbound. And I mean, there's positives and negatives to each approach, but at this point, you almost certainly have to put somebody right up there to try and alter, and they will do so with Spainhour once more. The inbounder for Randolph will be O'Neal. Of course, she took a little bit of contact earlier in the game as she went up and blocked the shot of Spainhour. But good to see her back in the game. She gets the ball into Jennings, who will draw a foul on Sledge. Stop the clock at 4.2 ticks. It's going to send Jennings, of course, to the line. Jennings not putting in a big lift for Randolph in the scoring column, but has done an excellent job handling the ball. Been a big factor in the second half on a lot of these inbounds passes when Lynchburg is matched up tightly on Stark. And knocks down that first free throw there. She goes 2 for 2 at the line. Lynchburg quickly, as time will run out, a shot goes up from Harris, slightly askew and off. And we have hit our final here in the home opener for Lynchburg. It'll be a 56-49 decision favoring Randolph, and Randolph earning its first win in this series in the last 21 tries, and its first win in this building since 1998. talk us a little bit through to how we got here, Andrew. This final 7-point decision as Randolph staves off a comeback attempt from Lynchburg.
Yeah, I mean, for Lynchburg, a lot of positives to draw from the last 2 quarters and maybe even the last 15 minutes, because while they were down what it maybe was near 22, 23 points at one time, they cut it down to 5 and were in this game if there was another minute and a half, 2 minutes left. So a lot of positives in terms of shooting the ball from behind the arc and moving the ball on the offensive end. Their defense also pretty much stepped up in the 3-quarter court, but not too many positives to draw in terms of losing that winning streak. But a young team, first home game under their belt, I'm sure they'll succeed.
Yeah, the first time at home for this young Lynchburg team. You always want to see how a young team will respond in the face of adversity. And I'd say against what is a very, very good Randolph team, this young Lynchburg team rose to the occasion tonight and certainly put themselves in a position to come back and get into this game. Just dug themselves into a little bit too big of a hole in that first half. But surely they will come back bigger and better from this game. Also worth noting that 17 points from Cabrera. We've talked a lot about Crenshaw Patterson tonight, but Cabrera was just huge. I mean, how about the last 2 games from her? I mean, 8 against Shenandoah was her previous season high, 17 tonight, more than doubles that. So 25 in the last 2 outings for her has got to be huge for her confidence. Randolph will improve to 5-2, picking up its 2nd conference win on the season. Lynchburg falls to 1-6. And for myself, Sam Graham, alongside Andrew Watson, that is going to do it for us. And we will see you next time here on LHSN.